For 65 years, humanity pointed radio telescopes at the sky and heard nothing but silence. We searched, we listened, we sent our own faint signals outward, and waited for something to answer. Nothing ever did, so we told ourselves we were probably alone, or at least, that if something else was out there, it was too far away to matter. That assumption died 8 hours ago. In March 2026, NASA's Deep Space Network antenna at CRA logged a telemetry event so statistically improbable that its natural occurrence probability sits below 0.000004%. Within minutes of that reading, 3 of the most powerful observatories humanity has ever built, the James Webb Space Telescope, the ALMA Observatory in Chile, and ESA's Gaia spacecraft, all redirected to the exact same coordinates simultaneously. What their combined instruments captured has not been fully released to the public, but what has been confirmed is enough to change everything. An object designated 3I Atlas, tracked for 6 months as a compact 40-kilometer spheroid, unfolded in 47 minutes into a rigid flat disk, 1,240 kilometers wide and less than 800 meters thick, wider than the entire state of Texas, holding perfect structural integrity while rotating at a velocity that should have torn it apart the instant it began moving. To understand why those two numbers represent an absolute physical impossibility, you have to look at how the universe builds things. Every large natural object in existence is a sphere. This is not a coincidence, it is a consequence of hydrostatic equilibrium, the physical law stating that any body massive enough for gravity to dominate its shape will pull itself into a sphere. That geometry minimizes gravitational potential energy across the entire mass. Stars are spheres, planets are spheres. Every moon above a certain size threshold is a sphere. Even Saturn's rings, the flattest large-scale structure in our solar system, are not actually solid. They are billions of individual ice and rock particles in independent orbits, only appearing flat because they share a common orbital plane. Nature does not produce a single continuous solid object 1,240 kilometers wide and 800 meters thick. The gravitational self-force alone would collapse such a structure into a sphere within hours of its formation. But 3I Atlas did not form as a disk. It unfolded into one. That distinction is the single most important forensic data point in this entire analysis. Something did not grow into this shape. Something chose it. ESA's Gaia spacecraft cross-referenced the gravitational lensing signature before and after the unfolding event. The total mass of the object did not change. The same quantity of matter that once composed a 40-kilometer spheroid is now distributed across a disk with a surface area of 1.2 million square kilometers, twice the land area of France. The mass of a mountain, compressed into the geometry of a razor blade, with no detectable debris field, no thermal signature of structural failure, and no reduction in total mass whatsoever. This was not fragmentation, this was reconfiguration, controlled, precise, and executed with a level of engineering so far beyond our own that we do not yet have the vocabulary to describe it. By 5:45 UTC, 3 independent observatories confirmed the disk is solid, a single, physically connected structure. The Keck Observatory in Hawaii applied laser spectroscopy to analyze the Doppler shift of the object's outer edge. A debris cloud would show individual particles drifting outward under their own momentum, producing detectable spectral broadening. The Keck data showed rigid body rotation instead. The outer edge, 620 kilometers from the center, is moving in perfect lockstep with the core. Every part is physically connected. It is one piece. ESA's optical telescope then measured the occultation of a background star as 3I Atlas passed in front of it. A dust cloud produces a gradual dimming as the star fades behind increasingly dense material. The star behind 3I Atlas vanished instantly and reappeared exactly 0.04 seconds later. The edge of this disk is geometrically sharp. Dust clouds do not have sharp edges. Manufactured components do. The Goldstone deep space antenna confirmed it further. A radar signal bounced off the surface, returned coherent and clean, reflecting from a continuous smooth surface with a uniform backscatter signature. 3 independent methodologies. 1 conclusion. This is a single solid object, 1,240 kilometers across. Now apply the physics of rotation to what was just confirmed, and the numbers become not just unusual, they become a direct challenge to everything material science has ever achieved. The disk rotates once every 22 minutes. For a solid structure of this diameter, the centrifugal acceleration at the outer rim is enormous. The tensile strength required to keep material at 620 kilometers from the center, physically attached to the rest of the structure against that centrifugal force, calculates to approximately 400 gigapascals. The strongest steel manufacturable on Earth reaches 2 gigapascals. Carbon nanotubes, the most tensile material ever synthesized in any human laboratory, top out near 100 gigapascals. The material composing 3I Atlas is at minimum 4 times stronger than the theoretical ceiling of human material science. If this object were composed of any substance on the periodic table, it would have shattered the moment it unfolded. The outer rim would have dispersed as a billion-piece debris field detectable across the inner solar system. Instead, it is holding perfectly and silently, as though rotational mechanics is simply not a concern. And the unfolding itself was not random. The timing corresponds precisely to perihelion, the object's closest approach to the Sun. For 6 full months, 3I Atlas drifted through the solar system as a compact spheroid. It passed Mars. It passed the asteroid belt. It triggered nothing and attracted no special attention. Then, at the exact moment of maximum solar proximity, it opened. The reflectivity changed simultaneously with the shape change. Before unfolding, the object absorbed sunlight with the albedo of dark rock. Afterward, it reached 99.8%, reflective efficiency, becoming a mirror, the size of Texas, and the brightest non-luminous object in the inner solar system. NASA's trajectory models indicate that a 3-degree tilt of the disk toward Earth would reflect enough sunlight to illuminate the planet's night side with the intensity of a second full moon. Something packed a 1,240-kilometer rigid disk into a 40-kilometer container, drifted patiently through our solar system for half a year, and waited for the right star at the right distance before opening. That compression ratio, a structure 30,000 times larger than its stored configuration, deployed with perfect symmetry in 47 minutes, implies a mastery of materials and geometry that our most advanced nanotechnology programs cannot even theoretically approach. But here is the thing. The disk is not an anomaly. The disk is the delivery mechanism. What Hubble's Wide Field Camera 3 captured at the geometric center of that Texas-sized mirror at 6:23 UTC is what every agency with a space telescope is now focused on, and what none of them have yet publicly explained. At the exact center of 1,240 kilometers of razor-flat reflective structure sits a perfect black sphere, 8 kilometers in diameter, pulsing not with light, but with gravity. And the pulse is not random. Gravitational waves, in nature, are produced only by the most catastrophically violent events in the universe. The merger of black holes, the collision of neutron stars, the core collapse of a massive star during a supernova. These events involve the acceleration of stellar mass objects at relativistic velocities, releasing more energy in fractions of a second than our Sun will emit across its entire 10 billion-year lifespan. LIGO, Virgo, and Kagra, the most sensitive instruments humanity has ever constructed, detect perhaps a dozen such events per year, and every single one originates from sources billions of light-years away. The 8-kilometer black sphere at the center of 3I Atlas is producing gravitational pulses detectable at 280 million kilometers from an object with the mass of a large asteroid. Einstein's general relativity is precise on this point. To generate gravitational waves requires the acceleration of mass at relativistic scales, or an energy density so extreme it curves spacetime directly through mass-energy equivalence. The confirmed mass of 3I Atlas is consistent with a large asteroid. That mass does not generate detectable gravitational waves under any natural process known to physics. The energy density required to produce the observed pulse amplitude implies a power source operating at densities comparable to a neutron star matter compressed beyond atomic structure to nuclear density. Theoretical models examining the complete forensic dataset converge on a single framework, a contained microscopic singularity. A Kugelblitz, a theoretical black hole formed not from collapsed stellar mass, but from concentrated electromagnetic energy. Light compresses to such extreme density that it collapses gravitationally through its own mass-energy equivalence. A Kugelblitz of sufficient mass produces exactly the gravitational signature being detected. It provides effectively unlimited energy through Hawking radiation, harvesting the quantum process by which microscopic black holes radiate at enormous power levels. A contained singularity also explains what is arguably the most thermodynamically impossible data point in the entire observational record. The disk registers at 3 Kelvin near absolute zero. The Spitzer Space Telescope's infrared sensors confirm it. An object generating power sufficient to warp spacetime and accelerate a 1,240-kilometer structure by 3.4 kilometers per second instantaneously should be radiating waste heat detectable across the inner solar system. The second law of thermodynamics is absolute. No energy conversion achieves 100% efficiency. Entropy always increases. Waste heat always emerges. A conventional power source of sufficient output would be visible in infrared as a stellar-class emitter. 3I Atlas is cold, dark, thermally invisible. The waste heat is going somewhere our instruments simply cannot detect. String theory describes reality as 11-dimensional 7 additional spatial dimensions compacted at scales below the Planck length, inaccessible to any instrument operating in our 4-dimensional spacetime. A civilization that has mastered the engineering of compact dimensions has access to a heat sink of effectively infinite capacity, shunting thermodynamic waste into dimensional channels that register as nothing in our observable universe. Zero thermal signature not because the second law of thermodynamics is being violated, but because the entropy is being exported into hyperspace. At 7 UTC, the acceleration event confirmed the propulsion mechanism. Velocity increased by 3.4 kilometers per second instantaneously. No exhaust, no propellant, no reaction mass of any detectable kind. Newton's third law requires that every forward acceleration pushes something backward. 3I Atlas pushed nothing the instruments could identify. The Deep Space Network Doppler return confirmed a localized spacetime distortion ahead of the object space contracting in front, expanding behind. The object is not moving through space. Space is moving around it. The contained singularity at the center is providing the exotic energy density required to sustain the warp metric, the same negative energy theoretical models require for wormhole stabilization, now applied as propulsion. We theorized this was possible. Something built it. Then, at 7:45 UTC, the gravitational pulse changed character entirely. The steady 1/4 second rhythm became structured and complex, a sequence embedded in the pulse timing. Prime numbers 2, 3, 5, 7, 11, 13. Transmitted in gravitational wave modulation rather than electromagnetic signal. Not radio, not light. Gravity itself carrying mathematical information. No natural process produces prime number sequences in gravitational emission. Mathematical sequences require a counter. A counter requires computation. Computation requires intent. Someone aboard that disk turned on the transmitter. At 7:58 UTC, the gravitational beam narrowed into a coherent, directed pulse aimed not at Earth, but at a specific coordinate on the solar photosphere. The Solar Dynamics Observatory confirmed at 8:05 UTC that sunspot activity at that exact coordinate synchronized to pulse in perfect time with the signal from 3I Atlas. A 1,240-kilometer disk communicating directly with a star from 280 million kilometers away, with targeting precision measured in kilometers across interplanetary distance. The gravitational lens effect of the Sun, first calculated by Einstein in 1936, amplifies any signal passing through the solar gravitational focus by factors of 100 billion, creating galaxy-spanning transmission capability. 3I Atlas used our own Sun as a gravitational antenna, encoding a 1/4 petabyte data burst into the Sun's electromagnetic output. A transmission the star itself then broadcasts across 4.2 light-years toward Proxima Centauri. The signal lasted exactly 12 minutes. Then silence. To place that transmission in context, the Voyager Golden Record, humanity's most ambitious attempt to introduce ourselves to the cosmos in 1977, carried 1.5 gigabytes of information. 3I Atlas sent the equivalent of 10 million Voyager records in 12 minutes through our own Sun. Whatever was in that 1/4 petabyte message, it was not a greeting card. The disk holds its position. Updated trajectory models confirm the destination. Lagrange point L4, the gravitationally stable pocket 60 degrees ahead of Earth in our own orbital path. Objects at Lagrange points remain indefinitely. 3I Atlas is not slowing to leave. It is slowing down. The gravitational disturbance near Jupiter's orbital radius, now being tracked by the James Webb Space Telescope, was not there before the transmission ended. Something responded not in 4 years, which is how long a light-speed reply from Proxima Centauri would take, but immediately, which means one of two things. Either the physics of faster-than-light communication is not theoretical for whoever received that signal, or whatever responded was already here, waiting at a different coordinate in the same solar system, and the transmission was not a message sent across 4.2 light-years at all. It was a command issued across a much shorter distance. The 1-2-minute broadcast to Proxima Centauri may have been a formality, an announcement to a distant audience that something happening right here, in our own backyard, was now underway. Near Jupiter, something the size of a gravitational anomaly is resolving into a shape that the James Webb Space Telescope has not yet fully characterized. The second act, it appears, does not require an intermission. Consider for a moment what this object represents in total. A civilization that has solved the mathematics of 11-dimensional space not as theoretical physics, but as engineering specification does not travel between stars in a rocket. It folds the distance. It compresses a 1,240-kilometer structure into a 40-kilometer container, using dimensional geometry we cannot yet write the equations for. It powers that structure with a contained singularity. It dumps its waste heat into dimensions we cannot measure. It uses a star as a radio antenna. These are not capabilities at the edge of known physics. They are capabilities in a domain of physics that our most advanced theoretical frameworks can gesture toward but not enter. The unfolding happened when every major telescope on Earth was already pointed at it. The transmission happened through our own star in a way we could not miss. The mathematics broadcast in the gravitational pulse prime numbers, the universal language of intelligence, was chosen because any civilization capable of receiving it would recognize it immediately. This was not a covert operation. This was a demonstration. And demonstrations are performed for an audience. That audience is us, a civilization sitting at 0.73 on the Kardashev scale, a species that has not yet fully harnessed its own planet's energy budget, that measures its most powerful computers in petaflops, while the object now parked at L4 solved the n-body gravitational problem of an entire solar system in real time as a routine navigation function. We are not peers in this encounter, we are the subject of it. We always asked whether we were alone. We built radio telescopes and pointed them at the sky for 65 years and heard nothing. We sent Voyager into the dark with a golden record and called it an introduction. We debated probabilities and wrote equations and held conferences. What we never seriously considered was that the answer would park itself 60 degrees ahead of us in our own orbit, unfold to the size of a continent, power itself with a contained black hole, dump its waste heat into dimensions beyond our reach, use our own star as a telephone, transmit 10 million Voyager records worth of data in 12 minutes, and then wait, patiently, silently, oriented. 3I Atlas sits at L4. The singularity is pulsing. The sun has gone quiet at the coordinate it targeted, and near Jupiter, something is still resolving. The mind of the universe, it turns out, is written in the language of mathematics. And the mathematics just spoke clearly, deliberately, and directly at us. The question that remains is not whether this is real. The observational data has passed every independent verification. The question is what comes next, and whether we are remotely prepared for it. Whatever the second object near Jupiter becomes when it fully resolves, whatever reply travels back from Proxima Centauri or from somewhere far closer, the framework of human civilization, our science, our philosophy, our understanding of our own place in the cosmos will need to expand to hold what is coming. This has been Atlas Oracle. If this analysis made you think differently about what is happening in our solar system right now, share it with someone who needs to hear it. Subscribe so you don't miss the follow-up when the second object near Jupiter fully resolves, because that report is coming, and it will change the conversation again. The transmission ends here, but the second object is still resolving.